Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute sheer scale of United States defense spending. We hear about military budgets all the time on the news, but the true gravity of these numbers, it can be incredibly difficult to wrap our heads around. So today, we're going to break it all down, visually, step by step, using recent reports and defense data to unravel the mystery of where all that money actually goes. Okay, let's kick things off with a number that is just staggering. 10. The United States spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined. Seriously, if you take the defense budgets of massive global powers like Russia, China, India, and 7 other top military nations, and you pool all of their resources together, the U.S. still outspends them. How is that even possible, right? What kind of system requires more funding than the next 10 major world powers unified? Well, for the year 2023, that total was a massive $853 billion. It's a number so large it's practically abstract. To put that into perspective, that budget is larger than the entire economy of Switzerland. And get this, of all the discretionary spending Congress approves each year, meaning the money they actively choose how to spend, outside of mandatory programs like Medicare, almost half of it goes right here. That is an enormous piece of the taxpayer pie.
The root of this whole modern crisis really starts back in early 2020. The pandemic hits, right? And every airline is desperately trying to guess when long-haul travel is coming back. United basically parked their wide-bodies in storage, Delta retired a few older planes, but American completely panicked. Taking a highly pessimistic outlook, they decided to permanently retire all of their A330s, 767s, and 757s. Bam! 30% of their long-haul fleet just completely gone. But then, fast forward to the summer of 2022, travel rebounds like crazy. Fares are at historic highs, but American couldn't cash in because they simply didn't have the planes anymore. And to make matters worse, Boeing had paused their 787 deliveries. So while United and Delta gobbled up a massive 27% growth in international travel by 2024, American was actually forced to shrink its network. And that exposes a really sneaky economic trap in the aviation world, the lease-to-fuel efficiency ratio. Here's the key takeaway for you. Newer planes are not automatically better for your bottom line. Airlines finance or lease these brand new planes, and they come with massive monthly payments. To make those expensive payments actually worth it, you have to fly those planes constantly to recoup the costs through the fuel savings those shiny new engines give you. If a new, expensive plane is just sitting on the tarmac, it's bleeding money.
Because American panicked and dumped all their cheaper, paid-off older planes, their long-haul fleet suddenly became way over-indexed on these expensive, newer-generation wide-bodies. They're sitting at 47%, which is way higher than Delta's 37% or United's 32%. Now, why is that bad? Well, travel demand is seasonal. It drops off a cliff in the winter. Ideally, you actually want older, paid-off planes for those seasonal summer routes, because when you have to park them in the winter, you aren't bleeding cash on asset underutilization. But American didn't have that luxury anymore. They had backed themselves into a very, very expensive corner.
All right, moving to Section 3, failed hub expansions. Let's see how they paired that terrible hardware strategy with some truly staggering geographic blunders. Coming out of the pandemic, American knew their LA hub wasn't really optimal for trans-Pacific flights. So they hatched this plan to pivot up to Seattle by partnering with Alaska Airlines. They announced all these flashy new routes, direct to Bangalore for the tech boom, London, Shanghai. But you know what? Almost none of it actually worked. Russia invaded Ukraine, closing airspace, and making that Bangalore flight physically too long to fly from Seattle. China's endless COVID restrictions totally killed the Shanghai route. And the absolute nail in the coffin? Their partner, Alaska Airlines, surprisingly decided to just go and buy Hawaiian Airlines. That instantly gave Alaska its own wide-body planes, wiping out any need for American's long-haul help. After wasting all that time and money, American just had to retreat entirely from Seattle. To actually get people to pick up the phone and take the leap, they outline a remarkably low-friction process. They hit 3 key points to completely eliminate your hesitation. First, they promise checking your options only takes 10 minutes. Second, there are absolutely 0 upfront fees and no obligation. And third, this is a really smart detail, you speak to a salary-based consultant. They specifically use that phrase to reassure you that you won't be fending off some aggressive, commission-hungry salesperson. And then, to firmly close the deal and create a massive sense of urgency, they drop a kicker. They offer the possibility of delaying 2 full mortgage payments if you initiate the process right away. This is totally designed to promise not just the long-term savings we talked about, but instant, immediate relief from your monthly obligations. So, stepping back and looking objectively at how American financing constructs this, from weaponizing the exhaustion of the survival tax to the undeniable allure of saving 10 grand a year, it is an incredibly tightly woven argument. But here is the ultimate question you have to ask yourself. Does trading unsecured credit card debt for debt explicitly tied to the roof over your head truly constitute a reset? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Always remember to look under the hood and question the mechanics of the pitches you see out there in the wild. Catch you next time.